Days after Ukrainian drones torched Putin's Boyki warship in port, is a mystery sea drone blast at a NATO harbor now showing how far these shockwaves are spreading across the Black Sea. With cameras rolling as a sea drone suddenly goes up in flames off Romania's Constanța coast, is this NATO's clearest warning yet that the Ukraine drone war has reached its own doorstep? From a Russian corvette burning in Constanta to an explosion just off a NATO shore, are Ukraine's naval drones now sending shockwaves that neither Moscow nor the alliance can fully control? Is NATO on fresh alert after a drone blast just hundreds of meters from Romania's strategic oil hub, raising new fears about what happens if the next unmanned vessel hits critical energy infrastructure? Days after Ukrainian drones torched a Russian warship in its home port, new drone drama has hit NATO territory, dragging Romania's Black Sea coast into the frontline narrative. A naval drone exploded near Romania's Constanța port on the morning of June 5, with reports saying the unmanned vessel detonated close to the shoreline. Romanian authorities say they spotted the naval drone before it self-detonated near the shore, giving them just enough time to react before the blast. The surrounding area was evacuated ahead of the explosion, and according to officials, no casualties were reported despite the proximity to civilian zones. Romania's defense ministry said the device matched naval drone models already seen in the Russia-Ukraine war, linking the incident directly to the ongoing conflict. The Ukrainian Navy later confirmed that it had lost control of one of its sea drones in the Black Sea, acknowledging that the vessel had gone off its intended course. Kiev said the drone was thrown off by electronic warfare interference and then drifted toward the Romanian coast, rather than being steered toward NATO waters on purpose. Ukrainian officials stressed that they informed the Romanian Navy about the wayward drone, arguing that this coordination helped prevent civilian casualties or uncontrolled panic. The drone reportedly exploded just a few hundred meters from a major oil terminal near Constanța, a reminder of how little separates an incident from a disaster at such strategic hubs. Romanian media outlets said the unmanned vessel became stranded near the shore before detonating itself, suggesting it may have reached the end of its programmed route or fuel. Romanian President Nicolae Dan called the blast a direct consequence of Russia's war on Ukraine, warning that such episodes are inevitable spillover as long as the conflict continues. The incident has raised urgent questions about NATO security along the Black Sea frontline, especially around critical ports, fuel terminals, and shipping lanes. The blast comes just days after a high-profile Ukrainian drone strike hit a Russian naval asset in its own port, underscoring how the war's unmanned weapons are now reshaping risks on both sides of the sea. New satellite imagery suggests the Russian corvette Boyki's upper superstructure has probably burned down, indicating extensive damage above the main deck. Skysat images revealed dark smoke plumes and deep fire scars across Boyki's upper superstructure, underlining that the blaze was intense and spread across key sections of the ship. Analysts point out that the ravaged superstructure houses vital command posts, radar arrays, and communications gear, making this damage potentially far more serious than a simple hull puncture. Reports warn that destroying these systems could completely cripple Boyki's control and combat capacity, effectively turning a modern missile corvette into a powerless hulk even if the hull remains afloat. On June 3, Ukrainian drones struck the Russian corvette inside the heavily guarded Kronstadt naval base, a location long seen as one of the Navy's safer rear area facilities. At the time of the attack, the corvette was sitting in the Veleshchinsky dry dock near St. Petersburg for scheduled repairs, making it a fixed, exposed target rather than a maneuvering ship at sea. Footage shows at least 2 unmanned aircraft slamming into the ship's hull or superstructure in quick succession, before flames erupt and appear to engulf much of the vessel. Military analysts have compared the Boyki blaze to the 2021 fire that gutted her sister corvette Pravourny in St. Petersburg. Boyki is a Project 20380 multi-purpose missile corvette, designed for anti-surface, anti-submarine and limited air defense roles in Russia's near seas. Her listed home port is Baltiysk in the Kaliningrad region, anchoring her to Russia's Baltic Fleet on the exposed enclave between NATO states. The ship entered service in May 2013, giving Russia just over a decade of operational use before this latest attack severely damaged her. Boyki displaces roughly 2,200 tons, placing her in the light surface combatant class that Russia relies on for coastal and regional missions. She can reportedly reach speeds of up to 27 knots, fast enough to maneuver in Baltic waters and operate with other fleet units when fully functional. A typical crew for Boyki is about 100 personnel, including around 14 officers, all of whom rely on the now damaged systems in the superstructure to fight the ship effectively. The corvette mounts a single A1 90-100mm naval gun on the bow, giving it a versatile weapon for engaging surface targets, shore positions, and some aerial threats at close range. Two AK-630M 30mm close-in weapon systems provide last-ditch defense against incoming missiles, drones, and small boats, forming a key part of the ship's protective shield. Boyki carries up to 8 Kh-35 Orun anti-ship cruise missiles, which are intended to threaten enemy surface combatants and shipping across significant ranges. Her Redut vertical launch cells can fire up to a dozen air defense missiles, designed to intercept aircraft and some inbound weapons when integrated with working radar systems. The ship is also equipped with 324mm anti-submarine torpedoes, giving it the ability to hunt and engage submarines in coastal and open water environments. Boyki can operate Ka-27 naval helicopter and Orlan-10 UAVs, extending her reach for anti-submarine warfare, surveillance, and targeting far beyond the line of sight from her own deck. In a major escalation, Russia's deputy foreign minister has issued what amounts to a direct nuclear threat, openly warning about the circumstances in which Moscow could resort to atomic weapons. Sergei Ryabkov specifically warned Ukraine and its Western allies against any aggressions toward Russia, hinting that such actions could provoke a catastrophic response. He made these remarks on June 3 on the sidelines of the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, using an economic showcase to deliver a strategic warning. Sergei Ryabkov said, and I quote, "As regards us, those hypothetical extreme situations that may trigger the use of these weapons were outlined in detail in Russia's military doctrine and the fundamentals of Russia's state policy on nuclear deterrence. To put it somewhat straightforwardly, these documents send a signal that encroachments on Russia or its territorial integrity by aggressors, including those who may possess such weapons, could prompt us to use these weapons in the worst-case scenario." End quote. His warning came as Ukrainian drones struck both energy and military sites in St. Petersburg on June 3, linking the nuclear rhetoric directly to fresh attacks on Russian soil. The drone strikes landed just hours before Russia's flagship economic forum began, overshadowing the event and exposing vulnerabilities inside a showcase city. Several long-range drones crashed into oil facilities, with loud blasts heard across neighborhoods and plumes of smoke seen rising over the city. The governor of St. Petersburg said the Kirovsky and Krasnoselsky districts were among the areas targeted, confirming that key industrial zones were hit. Ukraine also reportedly struck near the Constanta naval base and a shipyard in the wider Leningrad region, extending the attack to critical military infrastructure. Video clips circulating online showed what appeared to be a Ukrainian drone hitting a Russian-guided missile ship, which then caught fire as flames spread across its deck. These strikes took place just about 10 miles from the economic forum venue where Putin is scheduled to speak on June 5, bringing the war perilously close to his stage. This was only the latest attack in a long string of tit-for-tat strikes between Ukraine and Russia, each round pushing both sides closer to a point of no return. The war has claimed more lives after another deadly incident struck Russian-controlled Crimea. Russian authorities said the strike left multiple casualties and triggered an emergency response in Simferopol. The announcement came directly from Crimea's Russian-installed leadership as details of the attack began to emerge. First responders rushed to the scene as officials worked to assess the damage and assist those affected. Sergei Aksyonov said, and I quote, "As a result of an enemy strike on non-residential buildings in Simferopol, 3 people were killed and 7 were wounded, according to preliminary reports. First responders are working on the site." Unquote. Moscow blamed Ukrainian forces for the strike and said non-military locations were among those affected.